Welcome to Murder.
And everything else.
My name is Joy.
And my name is Cheryl. And Joy and I are two old friends that are going to talk about murder and everything else.
Old friends.
Very old. I'm older than you. I will always be older than you.
That's right. Older and wiser.
Well, I don't know about that. That's why you're doing all the tech stuff. I told my friend that yesterday. I said, Joy's in charge of all the tech stuff because she's younger. And she's like, well, she's going to age out. You know how you age out at one point? Like I was talking to you about Gabe, yours and Gabe's age gap, I think,
right.
At a certain point. I said, no, because when I'm 80, she's going to be 76 and she would still be younger and I'll still be making her do the editing.
That's right. That's so funny. And what's funny? I've talked about in the past, I'm a nanny. And when I go to nanny, the lady who I nanny for, she's a friend I used to work with. Isn't it funny? Like I used to work with you. That's how we became friends. I used to work with Vinka, shout out Vinka. And now I work for her. So anyway, I was complaining about being an old lady and she's like, you're not an old lady. She goes, only when it comes to technology. And I started laughing. I'm like, and I'm the tech support for the podcast.
That's really saying something about our show.
That's right. Oh my God.
Joy, we are worlds apart from some people our age. For real. We are not half bad when it comes to technology.
I know, right? I just can't figure out stuff like, where I struggle is with all the different social media platforms because they all have like reels or like shorts or I'm not even on TikTok because I don't want to have to learn. What was that? It sounded like you fell down.
Sorry, I just hit the mic. It's like my version of drop the mic. I hit the mic.
Right. I don't want to have to learn another social media, whatever, time-wasting platform. But I struggle with like posting things on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter because it's all so confusing. And sometimes people will post things like a cute saying or something that's real snarky. And I'll be like, how did they get that up there? And then literally it'll take me like 6 days to figure it out. Ugh.
I don't know why I'm going to admit this. It's not going to make me look good, but I don't do social media at all. And so when I was looking for jobs, I'd be like, okay, I can do that. I can do that. And then it'll say, and respond to social media, blah, and I'm like, oh, next. That's part of like a job responsibility now is to maintain their presence, this company's presence on all these social media platforms, or like respond to people. And I'm like, I don't do that in my personal life. So it's sad because then I'll have to go, okay, next. Everything was looking good. Like, okay, that looks like not only that I'm qualified, but that it's halfway interesting, something I want to do day in and day out. And then it'll get to the social media and I'll be like, okay, just X myself out of that. And the thing is, I have no desire to learn it either. It's just more shit to look at. I have enough shit to look at.
Yep, so, you heard it here, guys.
Cheryl has enough shit.
Cheryl's got all that shit to look at.
She's full of shit.
That's right. That's right. And that takes us to our disclaimers. And just remember, a quick reminder that this is not for children.
Oh, goodness.
Because they probably don't have enough shit to look at. So, anyway.
Oh, boy.
Too funny. So, hey, you want to start us out with your highs and lows?
Of course I do. All right. My low was the dang job that I had. Notice I'm using the past tense because last Friday My week ended with me. My blood pressure was probably over 200, over 100 something. I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. And when something is affecting your mental and physical health that much, it's not worth it. But cooler head, my cooler head prevailed. And I was like, I'm not going to quit right this second. I'm going to take a breath over the weekend. And then Monday came and I was like, I don't want to go. I don't want to do this.
Oh
So
my
I
God.
logged on, I clocked in, I sent them a resignation email, and I said I'll finish it out till Friday. I didn't give them 2 weeks notice just because I didn't think they needed it. I said I'll finish out Friday, and then that day, Monday, ended with me telling a front desk person at a hotel to lose the attitude, and then hung up on her because she was so rude. Okay, so I I knew. I was like, that's it. So Tuesday I was like, I'm not gonna make it to Friday. I just told someone to lose the attitude while I was on the clock. I was like, this is not good. So I told them I'm not coming back. So,
It's hilarious.
well, and you know what? If the job is really not what I want to talk about, I could not believe. So one of the responsibilities of this job was to speak to hotel front desk people, and not just front desk. I'm actually going to make it more general because my best friend Priscilla is going through something really, really harsh with FedEx. I'm sorry, I'm calling them out. But customer service has just gone down the drain. I mean, really. And when I talk to these hotel people that have attitudes, I'm like, doesn't someone overhear you like standing nearby? Isn't there a manager nearby that's like listening to how awful you're being on the phone? But anyway, this rep, she was rude to the whole call. She was practically yelling at me, and I was being really nice because I was at work and I was, and then she dismissed me at the end when she just wanted to
Mhm.
get off the phone. She was kind of like, okay, well, we're done. And I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then I was like, no, 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 I can't let this go. Yeah, and I ended up telling her to lose the attitude. So
Good for
it's,
you.
but customer service is just horrible, horrible now. Um,
Yeah,
it's
it's
gone out the
true.
window. Yep. So that was my low. And then my high is that I'm going back to my peeps at the senior assisted living place. I love those
Yay.
ladies. Yeah, because remember my manager who I told I was leaving and then we were both crying. Remember I told that story already.
Aw,
So I get to go back home, I feel like. Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, and I hope that I can make it work um with the amount of hours and the pay and all that there because yeah, I do feel like I'm going back home with the other ladies that I work with, and then our manager. We're like little ducklings. We're just going to follow her wherever she goes.
Aw, make way for
Yeah,
ducklings.
because she's really great. She understands a work-life balance. She understands that life happens, and she's so willing to adjust, you know. And she came
Right.
when after I moved to Arizona and I got hit head on in the car. She came the next day and dropped off flowers. She didn't even ring the doorbell. She didn't want to bother me. Kevin said he looked out the window and saw a lady with long hair running back to the car. And when I told her
Oh,
that, she
funny.
started cracking up. She goes, I didn't want to bother you. Yeah, I hadn't been working for her that long when that happened. I had only been here for 6 months. So I was probably working for her for only 4 months. And she came and dropped off flowers. So that was really sweet. But
Oh, that's
anyway,
sweet.
yeah. So that's my high, going back home to the
Nice.
old folks' home where I'm going to end up one.
Yay.
Hey, you know what? When I first started working at one, um, I told Kevin, I was like, they have it made, man. They don't have to clean their room. Someone cleans their room. They do their bed, their linens. There's a restaurant downstairs where you can get all three meals. And the first one I worked at, they were open the entire day, so you could go down and get snacks too. But I mean, it was like, this is this is the deal. I want to move in.
That is a good deal.
Yeah, but they aren't cheap.
And
They
they
have
also have chefs that prepare like these delicious meals for them. and they just have to come in and sit down in like a dining room. It's like waiters wait on you.
Yeah, it's I'm telling you, it's like you're on
Did you
vacation.
did you get to eat the food when you worked there?
Yeah, we have you just like when you work in a restaurant, or when I worked in a restaurant, they have an employee menu, right? So you can't get like the the best stuff, but yeah, you can get. Well, the first place I worked at, it was free for the employees, and then they started charging when they were taken over by a big corporate company.
Oh,
But most of them, it is one of the benefits. It's one of the bennies for the employees is that you get fed there, which I think is really nice, you know.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, stay tuned for Cheryl's employment saga. Ugh.
When I was I think 16, I got a job at a psychiatric convalescent hospital in the town that I lived, and it was a way better paying job because at the time the minimum wage was 3.35, and I had been working for a custodial department cleaning toilets and vacuuming, and I got this
What?
job. Yeah, and I got a job as a dishwasher in the kitchen, and I was making $4.67 an hour, or $4.76. Whatever the case, it was way more money. And it was a facility with maybe, it wasn't like posh or anything. Remember, it was a psychiatric convalescent hospital.
Wow.
So,
At
yeah.
16?
And now that I think about it, it probably wasn't even psychiatric. It was probably people with memory problems. But
Right.
this was the 80s, people. We didn't know what was going on in the 80s. So, anyway, the lady who was the cook, her name was Cookie, and she used to
Cookie
snap
the
the
Cookie.
filters. Yeah, she used to snap the filters off her cigarettes and smoke them over the food that she was cooking. And I
Oh,
remember
lovely.
the first day that I worked, she said, "Hey, kid, you know," she goes, "when you work, you get a free lunch." And I was just like, like,
You're like
"I'm
with tobacco
sorry."
shavings or
Yeah,
without?
right. That's right. I'm like, I think I'm gonna sit that one out. Like, yikes. So
You're like, the
anyhow,
only way I like to have tobacco is if I'm smoking a cigarette.
right. I mean, it was she ended up, I don't know what happened to Cookie, because then a classmate of mine from high school, literally in the same grade, then became the cook, and she and I were both in the kitchen working together. It was kind of fun because we
I
were
cannot believe
exactly
you
the,
had never told me this.
yeah,
Go ahead.
we were both 16 or 17 working in the kitchen. She was the cook and I was the dishwasher, and I can tell you she wasn't smoking filterless cigarettes so that made the food way more palatable.
I can't believe I share my toilet nightmare, my anxiety dreams, and how I quit because I didn't want to clean the toilet. And you clean toilets. I don't think you've ever told me that.
Oh yeah, I worked for a custodial department for like 2 or 3 summers. And I started in the housekeeping department, and then I went to custodial, and it was, I mean, when you're a kid and you're 14 or
I don't.
15 and you're spending all summer working
No.
40 hours a week, it's awful.
Yeah, we don't. You can spare me the details of that.
And it's a
Your
college
septic
campus.
tank. Oh Lord.
I know. So you're cleaning all these college kids' poo out of the bath. Ugh.
Or if they got
So
sick
gross.
from being drunk and
Oh.
shitting.
Well,
Ugh.
it was a Christian college, so I think the
So
idea was nobody got drunk, but we all know that that's not true.
exactly,
So,
it's probably even worse.
right?
But yeah,
Yeah.
your septic tank story has scarred me for life.
Eh, you should come visit. We have a septic
Yeah,
tank. Anyway, let me roll into my highs and lows.
yeah.
Let's see.
We better
So
go.
my high is that um last night some friends came over and we had the a super fun dinner. But what we did was we've had dinner with these friends before, but what was different about last night was I picked what we call the secret ingredient, and then we both had to make a dish using the secret ingredient, and then we had to have the kids eat the dishes, and they get to vote on which dish was their favorite.
That's so
And
fun.
it was so fun. And what I picked was these soy chunks that are like dehydrated and dried, and they look like dried dog food pellets.
Yum.
And yeah, yeah, and they're called literally soya chunks. And
Nice. So
I mean, if you,
appetizing.
oh yeah, I mean, I dropped one on the floor and the dog just ate it up. I was like, well, and the dogs are still here today. But anyway, um, what the other family did was they used the soya chunks. They like rehydrated them and then deep fried them in coconut oil and made lettuce wraps and used like Thai or Vietnamese, lettuce wraps with like pickled vegetables and fish sauce. So the fish
Mm.
sauce kind of like and the lime juice overrode like gave the flavor to the soy chunks because also he put them like in the food processor or something, made them smaller instead of like large chunks.
Chunks.
Lit literally, when you the first thing you have to do is soak these things, but you'd squish them and it was like squishing a sponge.
Yeah.
All the liquid would just like drain out.
It
So,
reminds me of those sponges that come super flat, like really, really tiny, and then you
yeah,
add
yeah.
water and it blows up into yeah.
Yeah, like the ones at Trader Joe's. That's exactly what they look like. You could probably scour your kitchen sink using these things.
Sounds
But
like
what I did was I rehydrated them, then I boiled them to make them softer. Then I drained out the water and put them in the food processor and ground them into tiny bits. And then I mixed them with all kinds of seasonings and like vegetables. And I made Jamaican beef patties with them. Because, Jamaican
oh.
beef patties have curry powder and habanero and ginger and onion and garlic and scallions. And it has allspice and turmeric. And so it's very heavily flavored
Mm-hmm.
and then also very spicy. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was super fun. I mean, we had other food. But it was fun to try to make something, out of something
Out of
really weird.
mattress
And
foam.
yeah, it was so fun. So that was our high.
Well,
And
who won? Who won according to the kids?
well, I did.
Yeah.
Everybody voted for mine except for me. I voted for Howie's. Anyway, that was my high. So let me go into my low. My low is that the soy chunks, the soy chunks, they just, your body doesn't metabolize them like your body metabolizes other stuff. They just kind of seem to go right through me. So,
They fell
anyway,
out of her butt.
anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. That low just kind of popped in on me too, if you know what I'm saying.
It took over whatever your low was going to be
That's right.
5 minutes ago.
As I like to say, it's a new low.
Oh God.
I've Joy's hit her new low. So anyway, thanks Susan and Howie for the best soy chunks dinner. And guys,
They, they got to
just
call
for
that something else.
that's right, guys. Those of you who are listening, if you want to have a super fun, kick-ass like dinner party, pick a secret ingredient, invite someone over and say, you guys have to make something delicious using Velveeta or something delicious using Jello. And then everybody has to bring something with that in it. And then you have a little dinner party. And it's just so much fun. One, to see people's creativity, and two, to see what people can make using spray cheese or, I mean, something. And if you can pick something really odd, it gets even better, like canned sardines or something like that.
Head cheese. Isn't there a lunch meat called head
Oh,
cheese?
yeah. And but I will say that growing up, because I was raised vegetarian, I always thought it was just like a dirty insult. but turn
Because it sounds like one. Oh
but it's
God.
so gross. I mean, isn't it like jelly
Yeah,
like brain
it's
material
like
or something?
it's probably the pieces of the animal that really no one should be
Ugh.
eating. They should be
You
using
know,
it to scrub their
their kitchen sink.
Yeah, but it's
Um,
gelatinous. Oh
Ew.
God. Okay.
But you know what? Have you ever been to like do you like deli sandwiches and deli counters? 99% of the shit in a deli counter, I'm sorry people. If you love a deli counter, you might want to skip over this part. But 99% of whatever's in that deli counter just grosses me out. There's something called mortadella that basically looks like an arm that they slice up, and it's like I don't know what it's made out of, but it looks gross. All those weird like uh fatty like strips of stuff. I just ugh, it's so gross.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw head cheese in there with it.
I
I mean,
wonder if they're
what
still making it.
um you know um what my husband says that goes into hot dogs? He says it's butts and snouts.
Yeah,
Like noses and butts. It's like gross.
it is gross, but I
Ugh.
do love hot dogs. But I like turkey dogs, and even vegetarian ones are good. Like the corn dogs from Trader Joe's are really good.
Oh yeah, I put those in my kids' lunch, and then I
Oh,
make tartar sauce. That's like one of her favorite like lunches.
oh, yeah, it's good. You can find substitutes. I'm really into that impossible meat now. I know
Yeah,
I'm kind of
so's
late.
my husband.
I'm
He
kind of
loves
late.
it.
I just saute it with butter and garlic, and I even like the texture more than real. I
Well,
don't really like.
you might be into soy chunks.
Yeah. They've got to come. Well, let's look up some synonyms for chunks, because that is
Well,
just,
well,
in the world of.
I bought it at an Indian market, and if we have any Indian listeners, maybe you can tell me. It said in large letters soya wadi, and then underneath it said soya chunks. And so I thought, well, maybe the word wadi means chunks
Chunks.
in Hindi or like some
Probably.
Indian language.
Yeah,
So
probably.
anyway,
But I'm sure in like the culinary world, you kind of probably tend to stay away from naming anything chunks.
oh
Oh
god, too
man.
good. Anyway, I wanted to give a shout out today, and
Yeah.
I'm sending our shout out to Gabe's cousin Carson, who's agreed to be a guest on one of our podcasts in the near future. I'm so excited to
Yay,
have you co-host with us, Carson.
Yes, Carson. Can't wait. That's going to be so interesting. We won't
Yep.
we'll keep you in the dark about what she's coming on for.
Yep. We're going to totally keep you in the dark. And that having been said, we're going to roll into today's topic. Cheryl has prepared pretty amazing uh, documents on men behaving badly. So take it away, Cheryl.
Yes. You know me, I like the lighter subjects. Um so men behaving badly. So yes, we are going back to murder. However, these situations are not ones that were, it wasn't a murder that was planned out because a spouse wanted their spouse's insurance money, or one of them had been having an affair and they wanted to kill the other one and get them out of their way, although I don't know why they just don't divorce. um, Usually there's those, I go over those situations, or I don't know, the Robert Wan one was just a big mystery. But these are situations where you step out of your house to do something and things can turn on a dime. And yes, I said men behaving badly. I'm not trying to trash men. There are women that behave just as badly. And one day I might do a episode on that. But today we're going to go over men behaving badly. And my first story is called it's known as the movie theater popcorn shooting, and you'll see where popcorn was involved in this. So this happens in Tampa, Florida on January 13, 2014. And this involves Curtis Reeves, who's 71 years of age, and his wife Vivian, and Chad Olson, who's in his 40s, and his wife Nicole. They all attend a showing of Lone Survivor at the Cobb Theater. Chad and Nicole have a 22-month-old baby at home who's sick. And so before the movie starts, Chad is texting their babysitter to check on his baby. Curtis and his wife, Vivian, are sitting in the row behind Chad and Nicole. They're not directly behind. I've heard some stories where they say they're directly behind them, but they are just like diagonally off. So Curtis and his wife are in the back. Chad and Nicole are in the front of them, a little bit off to the side. And so, you know, that announcement that goes on that asks everybody to silence their phones? Well, they play that, and then the previews begin. And Curtis is annoyed that Chad is still on his phone because the lights have dimmed. It's not completely blacked out, but he can still see, you know, you can see like the light from the phone. And I'm sure you can see it out of your peripheral vision, you know, and some people are really into the previews. I know my husband loves watching the previews. So Curtis is annoyed that Chad is still on the phone, and he leans forward and tells Chad he needs to turn off the phone, and Chad ignores him. So Curtis then gets up to complain to the theater management. Curtis comes back a little while later. He takes his seat. His wife Vivian's holding the popcorn, so he takes the popcorn. Now Curtis has the popcorn in his hands. And the previews are really loud. And Chad turns around and starts yelling obscenities at Curtis. So no one really knows what was said between them after Curtis gets back from talking to the management. But in any case, Chad turns around, starts yelling at Curtis. Chad has his cell phone in his left hand, and his wife Nicole is standing beside him with her left hand on his chest, and she's trying to calm Chad down. So Chad is 6'4" and a little over 200 pounds. And again, Curtis is 71 years old. So he's kind of leaning over the back of his chair, like, because he's angry and he's shouting at Curtis. And then he flips Curtis's popcorn bag into Curtis's face. And before, they have video, very grainy. It caught, if you watch any documentaries on it, where the camera was situated, you could really only see very little in the lower right-hand corner, but you can see Chad flip the popcorn, and before his hand even comes down, a gunshot rings out and he's shot. And
oh my God.
Yeah, imagine that. Curtis, a retired police officer, has brought a gun, a .38 caliber semi-automatic to the theater, and he's shot Chad. He's also got shot through Nicole's ring finger because her hand was on her husband's chest, and then the bullet goes through her finger and then into Curtis's chest. Into Chad's chest. I have a hard time keeping these names straight. And then Curtis claims later that Chad threw his phone at him, but other witnesses dispute this. And Chad's phone does end up in Curtis's lap, but it could have been because he dropped it when he was shot. And then Chad is taken, other patrons of the theater come over and they try to help Chad, but he's taken to the hospital and he dies later. And witnesses claim that they hear Curtis say under his breath, right after shooting Chad, he sits back in his chair and he goes, "Throw popcorn in my face." 8 years later, Curtis goes on trial. Yeah. 8 years later, Curtis goes on trial for second-degree murder. And during the 8 years, he was on house arrest, tethered to an ankle monitor. In his defense is that he's an old man with ailments and carried the gun for protection. He says he was in fear for his life when Chad tossed the popcorn in his face. It's a stand your ground type defense, and we're going to get into that because that's a very, it's a good conversation, good topic for conversation, and I think people have a lot of different opinions on stand your ground. But excuse me, after 9 days of testimony, nearly 9 hours of closing arguments, Curtis was found not guilty of second-degree murder and not guilty of aggravated battery. The not guilty verdicts came 1 day after Curtis testified in his own defense. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. So that's what happened there. I can't believe that these people go to a matinee to enjoy a movie, and one is killed. and the other
That's
one
crazy.
goes on trial because emotions took over. It's unbelievable. So,
Unreal.
what do you think? What, you can put yourself in both people's position. The jury really felt like the 71-year-old man had a right, he was probably in fear. I don't know about his life because he was the one holding the gun, but he doesn't know what Chad has, right? I guess. So
Right.
he's a lot older. Um, I don't know. I feel like that comment, throw popcorn in my face, was more of a two men, just their egos not being able to back down. I don't
Yeah.
know, in my mind, I don't know how scared he really was for his life, but I think he wanted to teach this younger guy a lesson type of thing. And I think they just, their emotions took over. And neither one wanted to be the person, the bigger person who could just move seats. I mean, I just, like, come on. It was an empty theater. It was empty. There were only a few people there because it was a matinee and yeah. What do you
Yeah,
think? What
I
would you do?
here's well, first of all, I I would not um I would not if someone was on their cell phone, I would get up and move seats
Mm-hmm.
because one of the things that first of all, I don't feel like at my age and with my with the face that I have that I'm the right person to pick a fight with someone. And maybe it's because I'm a woman. And so I've become more adept at um, diffusing situations. Maybe because I usually would go to the theater with my kids. And also because I see how people react when they're confronted. And it's it's a little bit scary.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think I would have gotten up and moved, completely moved. Now, I will say one time we one time my husband and I went to the movies and we sat next to a couple and in all fairness the theater was packed. So they were the last two seats next to each other and the couple sitting next to us, one of the people in that couple was hard of hearing. So every
Oh, they
time
were talking. Oh,
yeah, and so they would be like, "What'd
what did
he
she say?
say?"
Yeah.
And
Oh
then he'd
no.
be like, "He said blah, 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 blah." And what happened? And I'm like, "Oh my God. Is
You know
this gonna
what?
go on for the whole movie?"
That's just.
Fortunately, it stopped after the first 5 minutes after the movie started. But we went to go see that movie, Y tu mamá también. I don't know if you ever saw it, but there
Mm-hmm.
is a particularly like super, super like hot
Oh,
and sexy sex scene in it.
yeah. It's
And
pretty
the
graphic.
man, yeah, the man started fall. So first of all, I'm like, I felt like I was going to the movies with my grandparents. And then the other thing was the man had been falling asleep after the first 5 or 10 minutes when he was like
Oh,
asking his wife what was going on during the movie. Well, I look over and he's wide awake. His eyes are like huge. They're like saucers. And his wife looks at him and she goes, "Well, that woke you up." And she says it really loud.
I bet
And
everybody laughed.
I totally nudged Gabe. I was all ha 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 ha. I was all, wow. I was
Oh
all,
my
I
God.
guess he didn't have any problems hearing that
Hearing that.
part. Yeah.
Well, I don't really
But
think you needed sound for that. I think the visual was more than enough.
right. But I remember going to a crowded movie theater somewhere in Southern California. And I remember this was when phones were still flip phones.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always I feel like when you go in public, whether it's an airport, you're riding a bus, or you're in a crowded train, or you're in an airport terminal, there's always some douchebag, some moron who thinks that everybody wants to listen to, and I find that it's usually men. Everybody wants to hear their conversation.
Oh, and I can't do that
And
because I don't want
it
anybody to hear me.
Oh, it's so aggravating, and they're, like, usually pacing around, and they're
Mhm.
like, "I told them that they better," and it's like, nobody here wants to hear your pretend conversation that you had telling people stuff. And the other thing I find so irritating is, um, sometimes women will do it in public restrooms, like, they'll go into a
Oh, I
public restroom in an
know.
airport or in a shopping center or something,
They do it at
and then
work.
yeah, and they'll be talking while they're sitting in the stall, and you're trying to take care of your business, and they're like, "Bah, bah, 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 bah." So you know what I usually do? I start making moaning noises because nothing shuts someone up on the phone like a person in a stall going, eh. I mean, literally, they'll stop and they'll be like, I gotta go. I gotta go. And they'll hang up because they don't, because either it's gross or it makes them laugh. But what I think is gross is talking about what happened last night when you went out with your new girlfriend and blah, 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 and your boyfriend and oh no, she did. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah,
I'm
and then,
trying to take care of some business. I'm
well,
only going to be in there for 20 seconds.
what I don't like is now I'm suddenly, because that's happened to all of us so many times, and I find myself freezing like, okay, I'm gonna flush, so I hope it's all right with you. Hey, you're the one that, and I have this like internal dialogue that goes on because I'm like, wow, I really don't want the listener to hear me flushing, but hey, you're the one that decided to have a conversation in the
Yeah.
ladies' bathroom. So then I go ahead and flush. But I always like feel like, oh no, they're gonna hear me flushing, and it's like it's your damn fault. It's not mine.
No. I mean, sometimes I'll be like, I'm gonna flush. I mean, it's so aggravating. I'm
It
like, have
is.
your private conversation somewhere private. Don't have it in the
It's not
bathroom.
in a public restroom. Yeah, and of all
Ugh.
places, there's going to be noises that are not going to be, very nice. I mean, like, come on.
Yeah.
But anyway, either one of the couples could have moved, right? But I guess
Right.
Curtis and his wife were there first, I believe. I believe that the younger couple came in later, but it's amazing. And the Curtis was a cop before, so I guess his de-escalation skills. I guess he hung that up when he hung his badge up. Because
Oh my
usually
goodness.
cops know how to kind of diffuse this, or they should. I mean, we know a lot of stories where they didn't, but I don't know who, and both. I think both sides could have done something different.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
unbelievable.
just really, really unbelievable. Oh, I was going to say too that once I went to a very crowded movie theater in Southern California, and a dude was on his flip phone and he was just yammering. And people were like, shush, shush, shush. And he literally ignored everybody and just kept talking.
In the theater? I mean, while the
Yeah.
movie was playing?
Yeah. And it was a
Oh,
packed theater. It was really, really awkward and weird. I just thought, you know, some people, I don't know. Some people just don't, yeah, they just don't get it.
no, I think they do. I think they do it on purpose. And it's interesting because I think because of cases like this, people are less willing to say something because they don't want to be
It's
shot.
true.
They don't want to, I mean, it's just not worth
Yeah.
it, right? But I truly, strongly believe people who do that know exactly what they're doing. They're just, they just like to cause trouble.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. I was at a concert or Chris Rock concert, and a couple of seats down, someone was really drunk and she was talking. Chris Rock is doing his show and she's fucking talking. I mean, and then mocking. Like he would
Oh,
say something
I
and then
thought you said you went to a Kid Rock concert,
and
and
you were
I
like,
literally could not. I was like, come on, Cheryl. Like, was it free? Like, what's up? Like, did you, I'm
I was
all,
paid.
Was scrubbing the toilet off the list that night? Like, what's up? Like, was it like buy a sushi roll, get a free Kid Rock concert ticket? Because I was just like, that just doesn't match up.
Doesn't go. No, Chris. I love Chris.
Okay.
Yeah, and she was just talking, and there were these young kids in front of her. I mean, not kid, they were young adults, but to me, they're kids. And they tried to be so, they were like, can you please stop? We're trying to watch a show. Oh, she was drunk. So she just came back and sassed them, and all of us around didn't say anything, which is amazing. And I talked to Kevin about it later. I said, it really kind of is amazing because we all could have ganged up on her, but then we probably would have made a big scene and Chris Rock would have stopped the show and looked up at the balcony and said, what's going on up there?
Right.
But people, it's amazing. It's amazing what people will do. And I really believe they are they just got some issues. They just want to poke the bear. They want to be obnoxious.
That's what it is. Poke the bear.
Yep. Anywho, that was our first lovely tale of men behaving badly. And let's go on to our second one called The Hockey Dad. And this is in honor of Kevin because he wanted me to talk about this one. So Thomas Junta, and I'm going to go by their last names on this one because that's how it was written. So I went online and all these different articles that were talking about this. So Thomas Junta is a 275-pound trucker and a quote-unquote hockey dad of two. He faced 20 years in prison for beating and killing Michael Costin, the informal referee of a scrimmage game involving the sons of both men. The fight began after a hockey practice on July 5th, 2000 at the Burbank Ice Arena in Reading. Is it Reading or Reading, Massachusetts?
I don't know. I know it's Reading,
California.
There's a Reading, California, but maybe it's Reading. I don't know.
Yeah, because Reading, California is Redding, and this is literally Radi. So I'm going to read it how it's spelled, like Moscow. So this fight began after a hockey practice on July 5th, 2000 at the Burbank Ice Arena in Reading, Massachusetts. Prosecutors alleged that the 6'1", 275-pound Junta, who was aged 44 at the time, outweighed the 6 foot, 160-pound Costin, age 40, pummeled him to death in a rage over rough play on the ice. But Junta claims he threw only 3 punches in self-defense after the other man sucker punched him. So his defense attorney, Orlandi, said the younger children from Reading, including the Junta boy, were playing better than Costin's 12 and 13-year-olds from Linfield. Junta allegedly yelled at Costin to control the checking and hitting. I guess checking, I don't watch hockey, but it's probably when you go and you like body slam them, right? Checking.
Yeah.
And allegedly Costin, who was the referee, yelled back, "That's hockey." And Orlando claimed that Junta then took his son and the boys' friends to the locker room, but Costin came up from behind him dressed in full hockey gear and began to argue again about the rough play and pushed his chest into Junta's face. The two came to blows, with Costin ripping Junta's shirt and trying to choke him with Junta's own necklace, cutting his face and kicking his shins and sneaker-clad feet with the 3-inch blades of his ice skates. All the while, Orlandi said Junta did little but protect himself before he leaves and retreats. When Junta walked back into the rink to get his children, Orlandi said he was set upon again by Costin, who swung at him as he entered the main doors. He missed and then jumped on his back. After the two men hit a trash can and fell down, Orlandi said Junta hit Costin 3 times and it was over. Michael Costin was declared brain dead Thursday, July 5th, 2000, and removed from a ventilator Friday, the same day Junta notified authorities he was leaving for vacation. On January 12, 2002, Junta was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. He was sentenced to a prison term of 6 to 10 years, and he was released on August 27, 2010.
Wow.
So there again, emotions getting the better of us at a children's hockey game.
I know. I will say this. I was in a physical altercation once in college and was instrumental in breaking up the two girls that were going at each other. And so I kind of got like in the mix a little bit. Um, Sometimes people, I mean, people lose their minds. I mean, anger is a very powerful emotion.
Yeah.
And you know, if you can do things, if you can like I don't know, if you can snap and do things that can cause that kind of like danger to someone, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't ever go to your children's hockey game.
Yeah. I don't have children, so I have not been to these types of games. I mean, I've gone to see someone's, my niece or nephew. So I don't have kids, so I don't go to these, kids games. I've gone to a couple in my lifetime, maybe for a niece or nephew, but I I mean, I hear these stories and I'm like, man, I guess parents can just get really passionate about the fight. And this was a scrimmage game. It was like, it was an
Oh, girl,
impromptu kind of
parents
game.
get crazy.
I
Parents
mean,
get crazy. And some parents have such tunnel vision, they can't they can't be impartial in a game. And I'll just tell you, and I don't know. I think we were all just having a nice time, but we got a purple card on one of the tournaments, and it was a group of all the parents, and we were kind of just having fun, laughing, and also like we were kind of shit talking the refs. I mean, I'll be honest, but the one of the judges came up and gave us a purple card, which basically means and said one more outburst and you guys will all be thrown out of the tournament.
oh, joy. I don't know
Oh
what a purple
yeah.
card is. You're
It
like
basic
timeout.
it's a
It's like,
no, it's like a warning. It's like
oh
you
my
better shut up.
gosh.
Yeah. And we were all, oh, and Gabe was watching the game from home because we were live stream it, and he's all, did you guys just get carded? And I'm all, yeah. I don't think we were kind of heckling, but we weren't being crazy. And he's all, OMG. And it was the first tournament that I had taken Fiona to. So it was like, talk about moms behaving badly. Um, but I want to just say that I feel like teen sports or kids sports has kind of gotten to like a much it's a much bigger deal than like say when I was a teenager. Now
Mhm.
that's not to say that there were not active teen sporting events and clubs and tournaments, but I can tell you that I feel like there was a lot more like understanding about sportsmanlike conduct. And like, I feel like even now, sometimes coaches are careful to tell kids, like, that's a shitty attitude. You can't bring that on the court because they don't want to deal with the parents because the parents are right behind them hovering.
Yeah.
And they're
Mhm.
like, and if you say something, the parents jump up, don't talk to my kid like that.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah, it's I think civility in general, but sportsmanship, customer service, there's a lot of things that have gone down the drain. It's just yeah, because nobody should be dying at a kids game
Right.
or any game.
You're right.
Which takes us into the Dodgers Stadium Giants fan attack. I'm sure you heard about this. Um, This one was really publicized. So, Giants fan Brian Stowe was just like the millions of fans who attend MLB games each season. And I am so not a sports person. I was like, MLB, MLB. Major League Ball games.
Major League Base,
Yes!
Major League
Yeah!
Baseball.
Major League Baseball. What did I just say?
You
Major
said
League
Major League ball
Ball
games.
games. Oh, and I was so proud of myself. So he traveled to LA and watched his team lose the season opener 2-1. After the game and wearing his Buster Posey jersey, which I assume is one of the Giants players, Stowe was trying to find a taxi back to his hotel when he was blindsided by an attack in the parking lot, his head crashing into the ground. The attackers then kicked his skull and ribs. There were numerous days doctors weren't sure Stowe would have survived. He remained in a coma for 9 months. After he awoke, he began a long, arduous road to recovery. Prior to his beating, Stowe had been a healthy EMT and is the father of 2 children, and he now lives under the constant care of his parents. So Los
Wait,
Angeles.
what happened to his wife and 2 children?
Oh no, so he is. I almost said he was the father. No, he's still the father, and I looked it up.
Oh.
He had been divorced before this happened. And apparently,
Okay.
yeah, and apparently he and his ex are really good friends, probably because of this. But yeah, so he has his son and daughter. I think one of them's 19, and I don't know how old the other one is, but it's just ironic. He was a EMT. I don't know why I find irony in that. Anyway, Los Angeles. So that happened, and what did I say? Did I say what year? Oh, I didn't even. I failed to put in. It was 2011 that happened. So now in Los Angeles, February 20th, 2014. Louis Sanchez and Marvin Norwood pled guilty to the assault that left Brian Stowe brain damaged and disabled. The two were immediately sentenced by an angry judge who called them cowards and the sort of people sports fans fear when they go to games, which you shouldn't have to feel. Anyway, he noted that Sanchez was smirking during his remarks, and he snapped at him. He snapped at Sanchez, "That is not funny." And then Sanchez was like, he knew that, like simmered down. Sanchez, 31, acknowledged he kicked and punched Stowe, pled guilty to 1 count of mayhem that disabled and disfigured the victim. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison with credit for 1,086 days. The complaint specified that he cut and disabled Stowe's tongue, put out an eye, and slit his nose, ear, and lip, in addition to other injuries that left him brain damaged. Yeah. Norwood pled guilty to 1 count of assault likely to produce great bodily injury and was sentenced to 4 years. But federal authorities said it would not be so fast because both men were charged with weapons possession charges that could send them to prison for an additional 10 years. And on May 17, 2015, Luis Sanchez was sentenced to 6 years in prison for weapons charges unrelated to the beating. The judge said he often takes his son to football games, and my biggest fear is that we might run into people like you who have no civility. He concluded, "It's only a game at the end of the day, and you lost perspective." Dodgers were found to be negligent in beating of Brian Stowe. After jurors deliberated for 9 days, the Los Angeles Dodgers were found negligent in the 2011 opening day beating of San Francisco Giants fan Brian Stowe. The defense for the Dodgers argued that because Stowe's blood alcohol content was 0.18, he helped instigate the events that led to his attack. It was also offered that the Dodgers had an unprecedented amount of security at the 2011 opening day than any prior. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to prevent the atrocities through which Stowe had suffered. And this part is, just another insult injury. Screwed out of a large piece of his court settlement. In 2015, Brian Stowe was getting screwed out of a large piece of his court settlement by his health insurance company, who had delayed his family from seeing a penny of it. A Los Angeles jury awarded Stowe $18 million in a civil trial, finding the Dodgers organization and the stadium 75% responsible for the attack on Stowe because of lack of proper security and lighting, meaning they owed him $13.9 million of the settlement and his attackers owed the remaining amount. However, as Bloomberg reported, under a long-standing legal concept in the insurance world called subrogation, Stowe's insurer, Envision Healthcare, had put a lien on Stowe's settlement, delaying payment to his family until they are reimbursed the millions they spent covering his medical care. This is all like Greek to me. But basically, he got screwed. And in a gross but expected twist of corporate greed, the Dodgers liability insurer bought the lien from Envision at a discount. They said they were owed 3.4 million for Stowe's care, but they sold the lien for 1.8 million. When the Dodgers insurer then sent a check to Stowe's lawyer, they deducted the full 3.4 million, meaning they netted 1.6 million in the deal. Meanwhile, Stowe still has to pay his own lawyer 3.6 million. San Francisco General wants 1.2 million for a care not covered by insurance after Stowe was transferred there, and
Oh my
Stowe's
God.
attackers, Louis Sanchez and Marvin Norwood, are never expected to pay their share of the settlement. Of course not.
Right.
So that leaves Stowe's family with 5.8 million of the full jury award, which is a far cry from the $30 million that it's estimated his lifetime of care will require.
Uh,
So 10 years later, a decade after getting beaten to the brink of death, Brian Stowe is still a loyal Giants fan. With the assistance of a walker, Stowe made his way out onto the field wearing his familiar orange and black Giants jersey. With the fans giving him a standing ovation, he triumphantly held up the ball and then threw out the ceremonial first pitch. Oh, I just repeated that. It was an emotional moment for all those in the park and those watching on TV, and it was the perfect final chapter to conclude a decade-long journey that included a tremendous amount of pain and hardship, all overcome by incredible strength, grace, and perseverance. And while that kind of puts a nice bow on it, his life is shit. I mean, this makes me so incredibly sick. Um,
that's crazy. That is a crazy story.
I mean, so the defense for these two guys is saying that Brian was drunk. You know, he was over the alcohol. So they probably all were. And so I'm sure he and his friends were, they were probably taunting the other guys, right? Because they're Giants fans in the middle of a Dodgers stadium. I just don't know. It's amazing how things can escalate. That's my takeaway from all of this. And I talked to Kevin afterwards, and I was like, if you were a Giants fan, would you wear a? I am not faulting anyone. You should be able to wear whatever the fuck you want, wherever you want. But I asked him, would you? I don't even know if he answered me because you should be able to, right?
Right.
It's like the guy driving in the fast lane. I think it's Kevin's friend who said he goes the speed limit in the fast lane. No one drives the speed limit on the freeway. But
Right.
he does it like because he can't, because he's going the speed limit. And so he makes everybody go around and, they're all pissed off, but he's like, but I'm going the speed limit. So I have a right to do
Oh
this.
God.
So it's kind of like, so what would you do? What would you do? Would you go to
Well, first of all, I would not be caught dead wearing a Giants t-shirt. Everybody who knows me knows that like I don't even own a Carolina blue shirt. And that's where my child is going to school and where we're paying for her to get an education. So I'll just say I don't even have UNC Chapel Hill whatever swag.
okay,
So
okay.
there's that.
Well, okay, let's
So
say you're
I
going to a
wouldn't
game
wear
and
a
play.
Giants anything.
Okay, well, put it in the whatever game, whatever. I have to equate it somehow to you. Like you're going to see the Sound of Music musical, and you go wearing a Les Mis shirt. I don't
I won't even own a Les Mis t-shirt. I mean,
Oh God.
for those of you like I want you to know that I have two t-shirts. One's plain and white
Oh
and the other
God.
one is yellow and white, and I only wear them to walk the dog.
That's right.
That's
You don't wear
it.
t-shirts, huh?
I don't wear t-shirts.
Okay.
I wear like blouses, or I wear tunics, or I wear shrouds, or I wear
Oh
tablecloths,
gosh.
but I don't wear t-shirts.
All
No,
right.
I would never be caught wearing anything that has sports information on it. But at the same time, I mean, I might wear like a pro choice t shirt. but I even thought about maybe not wearing that because I live in the South. Maybe someone's going to drag me out of my car and run me over.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So yeah, so do you think that people who are going to sports events should take it into consideration if they're the opposing, they're a fan of the opposing team? Do you think they should take that in consideration? They have a right to do it, just like
yeah,
the guy driving in the fast lane.
because think about it. Everyone at that event is drinking. And what
Mm-hmm.
happens when people drink? They act crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need to go into extra detail on that, but anyone who knows somebody who likes to drink a lot knows that they be crazy.
They be crazy.
So, it's like,
Okay.
I mean, getting oh, that was the other thing I was going to say. So our youngest child is in Girl Scouts, and in order to like raise money for Girl Scouts, we sold concessions at the football games at the local university at UNC Chapel Hill. So we would go to the football games and they would be playing like a Miami University, some school Miami, or some school somewhere else, Kentucky or whatever. And none of the people at the game were students because they can't afford the tickets. All of the
Mm.
people at the game were adults. And
Mm.
you have a bunch of people from the other team, the home team coming, and from the visiting team, and then they all start drinking when and it's like watching a train wreck in slow
Mm-hmm.
motion.
Mm-hmm.
People are so crazy when they drink too much.
Yep. And then, but
Ugh,
then, but then it's the sports thing.
yep.
It just brings on, I don't get it. Because like I said, I mean,
I don't either.
I was making fun of the theater reference, but you know, it's the sports thing. People get so into it. Okay.
Yeah.
And having posed that question about the Giants shirt, I'm in no way saying that they shouldn't have worn it. In a perfect world, they could have just joked around with each other, right? The Dodgers fans and the
Right.
Giants fans and poked, but that's not the world we live in, unfortunately. So
Right.
you are calling attention to yourself. But so now let's talk about the Giants fans. Like, really, really, what were you what was you accomplishing? I don't get it. What Someone explain that to me.
Yeah.
You beat this guy within an inch
I
of his
don't
life
I
in the
don't
parking
really
lot.
think there's
Why?
I don't really think there's an explanation other than um people are just yeah, people are just crazy.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think 8 and 4 years is enough? This guy, his life is,
No.
his parents have to take care of him. A grown man. He's like in his 50s
Yeah.
now. His like
It's
the
so
picture of
bad.
him. If you Google while we were talking, the picture of him in walking with the walker up to the what do you call it? Home plate, wherever you throw the first pitch. Listen, people, don't laugh at me. I don't know baseball. I called it the major league ball game. Okay. Um. Um. Uh. It's sad. It's just sad. This was a healthy man that went to go
Oh yeah,
see
it's
a ball
super
game.
sad.
So I don't think 8 and 4 years is enough. I don't. I
Well,
almost think he's
I think
life because he's basically doesn't have his life anymore. Just because he's breathing does not mean he's alive.
yeah. I think the thing that really I mean, if I'd been the judge, I'd have thrown the book at that guy. He was like snickering
Yeah.
or like making faces during the trial. I would have been like,
They're going to get out and do that
sorry.
shit again. Yeah. But see, it's the law though, right? He could probably only sentence him a certain amount based on the law.
It's obvious that those guys were criminals. I mean, that
Yeah.
behavior is criminal.
Yeah. And then they were brought up they were charged with possession of weapons. I'm sure it wasn't like on the up and up, whatever. And just, yeah, so I don't know. These were the stories that just brought to light like human behavior in certain situations and how, what my sister said that is like, what it will stick with me forever. I was telling her I don't know, maybe it was a road rage type of incident that I got into or was about to get into or whatever. And I'm telling her this story and getting all riled up. And she goes, Cheryl, don't complicate your day. And that
I
has
like
really
that.
stuck with me. My sister Noreen, who I love very much, and she's the smartest person I know. It was so
Aw,
simple, but it was so smart. Like, don't complicate your day.
yeah,
When you're putting on that shirt, you know that you're going to be going into the lion's den.
yeah.
Maybe you should think, don't complicate your day. I have a right to wear this, but
I like
don't
that. Don't
complicate your day.
complicate your day.
Don't
I
complicate your
think
day.
I'm gonna steal that just like I stole It's Not My Favorite.
That was my mom. My
I
mom when
know.
my mom when she was so cute because I didn't I can't remember her saying I hate something or I don't like that or whatever. So I'd ask her maybe about, let's say, a movie or an actor, and instead of her going, I don't like them or I hate them or I really, she'd go, it's not my favorite, or he's
I
not my
love it.
favorite. So
I love
yeah,
it.
that's a really good one. But my sister, really, don't complicate your day. It's, I'm not trying to be funny. It really, when you are about to do something that, just for a split second, if you can think to yourself, I don't need to complicate my day,
Mm-hmm. I
um
love it.
yeah, so maybe in any of these situations, in the movie theater one, if one of them had thought, don't complicate my day, and they moved, right? Because the theater was so empty, they could have moved. They could have moved
Yep.
seats, right? The
Right.
the to the hockey dads, like, once, just get the kids and leave. Don't complicate your day. Don't
Yep.
don't go back and go at it again. And so, yeah, shout out to my sister Noreen.
Woo!
She will be listening to it. She's one of our
Yay.
avid listeners. But anyway, so
Well, besides these three stories that you've told, do you know what is crime?
what's that, Joy?
That we are out of time.
That's right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Bye.